Assassin's Creed has buried its scariest moments in plain sight, and none of them involve a single monster. The real dread comes from walking through bone pits, cult layers, and ancient vaults that all whisper the same warning that no ground beneath your feet was ever truly solid. But the most suffocating cell in the entire series never needed walls, because one man never left his chair to find it. The Catacombs. There is a version of Paris in this game where nothing chases you, nothing bites you, and it is still the single most unsettling place you can walk into. That is the Catacombs. Up top, Unity sells you sunlit rooftops, flag-covered market squares, and a skyline you can climb for fun. Drop below the streets, and the whole game changes its mind about what kind of city this is. The obvious threat should be a guard patrol or a wolf pack. Instead, the threat is silence, and thousands of skulls stacked in walls like firewood. The Catacombs are not built around combat. They are built around getting lost and staying lost in tunnels that loop back on themselves until you cannot tell which direction is out. No boss fight down there, no ambush waiting around the corner, just bone-lined corridors that repeat, and a growing sense you have stood in this exact hallway before. That dread is not invented for the game. The real catacombs beneath Paris hold the remains of literally millions of people, generations of the city stacked underground because the surface ran out of room for its own dead. Unity does not need a monster when it already has that. Walking through it is walking through a mass grave the size of a neighborhood, and the game barely has to exaggerate to make it feel like a haunted house. Players consistently bring up the same thing about this section. Not difficulty, not enemy count, just the atmosphere, the claustrophobia, the low hum of being somewhere you're not supposed to linger. That split is not an accident. Unity spends its entire runtime convincing you the danger lives in open air, on rooftops, in crowds, then it drops you into the one place with zero threats and makes it the most memorable stretch in the whole game. The series is quietly admitting fear was never really about what is hunting you. A city that buries millions of its own and keeps walking on top of them like nothing happened is a fitting stage for a story about people mined for what is buried inside them too. But at least a grave is still a real place with walls and a floor. What happens when the developers strip away the geography entirely and drop you somewhere that isn't supposed to exist at all? The Black Room. A maze of skeletons can still be mapped. This next place cannot, because it is actively lying to you while you stand in it. Desmond Miles falls into a coma in Assassin's Creed Revelations, and the game does something no catacomb ever managed. It drops him somewhere with no walls, no floor, and zero ground truth. Welcome to the Black Room, a digital void the Animus builds when it runs out of real memories to show him. The obvious explanation is that it's just a menu screen with mood lighting, a blank space between missions, nothing more. Except the Black Room does not behave like empty code waiting for instructions. It behaves like something is already living in there. That something is Subject 16. Clay Kaczmarek, driven to madness and suicide by the same machine, Desmond is now trapped inside, and his voice bleeds through the static like a ghost that never got the memo about being dead. Messages appear, warped and half-formed. Symbols glitch across nothing. The whole environment stutters and reassembles itself, unfinished in a way that feels less like a bug and more like a scar. That instability is the entire horror. Players have documented the same unnerving detail for over a decade. The Black Room never holds still. It flickers between corrupted textures and dead silence, less a designed level and more a wound in the simulation that refuses to close. You cannot search it, you cannot clear it, you cannot mark it done on a checklist, because it keeps rewriting the rules while you're standing inside them. That's the escalation nobody saw, coming after a pile of literal bones. A grave is horrifying because it's real. The Black Room is worse because it isn't, and it still manages to trap a man who never asked to be there, kidnapped and strapped into a machine, mining his own bloodline's memories against his will. Fans keep ranking this sequence among the most disturbing in the entire series, and it's not the visuals doing the damage. It's the fact that the first real ghost in this franchise wasn't hiding in a tomb. He was hiding in the code, waiting for someone else's mind to wander close enough. A glitching void at least admits it's fake. But the truly unnerving hideouts are the ones that look completely normal, ordinary places you'd walk right past, hiding people who are always watching you. The cult's lairs. You could be standing next to a member of the Cult of Cosmos right now and never know it. That is the entire design philosophy behind these hideouts, and it is exactly why they get under your skin. The cult does not build monster pits. It builds offices, back rooms, and quiet storage cellars, tucked behind normal Greek life. That is the sharper problem. A skeleton maze announces itself as dangerous the second you walk in. A cult safe house looks like a merchant's storeroom until you notice the cult symbol carved into a crate nobody bothered to hide well enough. The official read on the Cult of Cosmos is simple: a shadowy group of masked elites pulling strings behind the Peloponnesian War. Fine. Except, the deeper you dig, the less that containment holds up. These people are not locked away in one fortress waiting to be found. They are threaded through the entire map, wearing normal faces, running normal businesses, standing in normal crowds. Players have documented cult presence bleeding into locations that look completely mundane on the surface. A quiet home, a dockside warehouse, a room behind a tavern that looks like storage until you find the ledger naming half the island. 0 flashing lights, 0 obvious danger cues. Just paperwork proving the person you traded with an hour ago answers to a masked cultist. That is where this gets uncomfortable in a way bone piles never manage. A labyrinth is scary because it is clearly built to kill you. A cult lair is scary because it is built to look like nothing at all. The same way the mind-mining Desmond Miles for his ancestors' secrets never needed monsters. Just a chair, a machine, and total control disguised as routine. Nothing in the games states this outright, but follow the pattern the cult itself lays down. Every hideout you find is not the network. It is proof the network exists elsewhere too, in towns you already cleared, behind doors you already walked past without a second look. The actual horror was never the room. It is the math. If this many layers surfaced from casual exploring, how many stayed buried? That turns every friendly greeting in Odyssey into a small gamble. Nowhere feels safe once you accept the cult was never contained to one evil hideout, because the paranoia does not end when you close the game. It just relocates. But at least a cult is made of people you can eventually unmask. What do you do when the thing hiding beneath the world isn't human at all and left its machines running long before anyone alive was born? The ISU vaults. Walk into the vault beneath the Colosseum in Assassin's Creed 2, and the first thing you notice is not danger, it's beauty. Cold light spilling from geometric walls that shouldn't exist in 1490 whatever, patterns too clean for human hands, a hum running through the architecture itself. Players call these places gorgeous. That's the trap. Everywhere else in the game, Florence and Venice feel like places you could actually stand in. Cobblestones underfoot, canals cutting through the city, market stalls packed with people haggling over goods. All of it grounded in a world you recognize even 500 years removed. Then you drop underground, and every rule you learned above ground stops applying. Straight lines that feel wrong in a way you can't quite name. Symbols that predate written language itself. A voice, sometimes, waiting inside the walls for someone who died thousands of years before you were ever born. The obvious explanation is treasure hunting. Ancient ruins, hidden knowledge, the same fantasy Indiana Jones sold audiences for decades. Except these vaults were not built by some empire that died out or got conquered by a rival. They were built by something that engineered humanity itself, then vanished without a trace, then left instructions sealed behind puzzles only their own creations could eventually solve. You are not raiding a tomb here, you're being let in. That is the part that turns wonder into dread once it actually lands. The vaults are not ruins in the way Rome is ruins, crumbling slowly because time eventually wins. They are dormant, waiting, patiently, for something specific. Built with a purpose that outlasted the entire species who built them, activated the moment a distant descendant walks in wearing the right blood. Nothing in canon says the Isu designed these spaces to feel sacred, but follow the pattern anyway. Every glyph, every warning, every temple humming with dead power reads like a message left specifically for you, centuries in advance, waiting for the right visitor. And somewhere above ground, a man strapped into a chair back in the present has no idea his own mind is the key turning that lock. Desmond Miles never asked to unearth any of this. His ancestors' memories get mined so a machine can read a warning meant for the whole planet, and he pays for that access with pieces of himself he never gets back. Fans still argue over whether these vaults are cool or scary, and both sides are right for the wrong reason. The scare isn't a monster hiding in the dark. It's the growing certainty that the ground under Renaissance Italy, under all of it, was designed, not formed by nature, designed deliberately by something that understood you long before you ever existed. Pre-human machines are terrifying because they're vast and knowing. But there's a different kind of fear waiting out on the open water, a place so cut off it doesn't even have a name to hold on to. The Nameless Isle. No monster lives here. No cult, no machine, no ancient god buried under the sand. That's what makes it worse. The vaults proved something bigger than you built the world and left instructions everywhere. This place proves the opposite. It proves the world can just forget you're standing in it. Sail into the nameless isle and the first thing you notice is what's missing. Every other scrap of land in this ocean has a name, a flag, a rumor attached to it. This one doesn't. No settlement claimed it, no chart bothered to label it. It exists the way a forgotten password exists, technically real, functionally erased. That's not a coincidence the game is hiding lightly. The entire Caribbean in this era runs on names. Nassau, Havana, Kingston. Names mean supply routes, means rescue, means somebody knows to come looking for you. Strip the name away and you strip away the last thing keeping the ocean from swallowing you whole, and the ocean is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. There's no cave system to get lost in, no locked door to break down. Just water in every direction, flat and indifferent, for as far as your ship can see. A sailor who goes missing on a named island might get searched for. A sailor who goes missing here just stops existing, because there was never a name to put on the report. Nothing in canon states outright why this specific island was left off every map, but follow the pattern the series keeps repeating. Assassin's Creed loves burying its secrets in the places everyone else abandoned first. A location doesn't need bones stacked to the ceiling to feel like a grave. It just needs to be somewhere nobody would think to check. Picture the version of this that actually matters. Not a pirate captain hunting treasure, but some deckhand who slipped, hit his head, and is now lying in the sand of an island that isn't on anybody's chart, in anyone's logbook, in anyone's memory. No name means no search party. He isn't lost. He's already gone, and the world just hasn't caught up yet. An island can strand you, but the sea is at least open sky above your head. The real dread starts when the only way forward is down, into a sealed monument that was built specifically to keep the living out. The Great Pyramids. The single most photographed monument on the planet is also, according to Assassin's Creed Origins, a death trap engineered with one job: make sure nothing that walks in ever walks back out. That's not a horror movie exaggeration. That's the actual architecture. Real Egyptologists will tell you the same thing the game does. Pyramids were built with false chambers, blind corridors, and shafts that go nowhere, all designed to confuse and trap. Origins just puts you inside that design and lets you feel exactly what it was built to do. Walk into any tomb complex under Giza in this game, and the openness disappears immediately. No horizon, no wind, no sky. Just narrow stone corridors, thick dust hanging in torchlight, and silence so complete you can hear your own footsteps echo back at you. Every turn feels identical to the last one. Every chamber feels like it's about to be a dead end, because a lot of the time, it is. The obvious threat down there is running out of light or air. The real threat is psychological. These aren't just old buildings, they're burial architecture, purpose-built to seal the dead in permanently and keep looters, priests, anyone from ever getting back to the surface. When you're crawling through one of these shafts, you're not exploring a ruin. You're intruding on a structure that was actively hostile to your presence 3,000 years before you were born. That's the turn the open sea never gave you. Getting lost out on the water is an accident of scale. Nobody built the ocean to swallow you specifically. The pyramids are the opposite. Somebody planned every inch of this maze with the explicit goal of trapping something alive inside it forever. It's the first location on this list that isn't indifferent to you, it's hostile by design, and that detail matters more than it looks like it should, because somewhere in this same universe, a kidnapped man strapped into a chair is being sealed into a machine built with the exact same purpose to keep something alive long enough to extract what's inside it, whether it wants to give it up or not. A tomb at least belongs to human history, kings and rituals we can name, corpses with names carved right there on the wall. But what happens when the thing sealed beneath you isn't human at all, isn't from this century, and the visibility drops so low you can't even tell if it's still down there waiting with you? Fenrir's Hollow. The scariest thing about this place isn't what you can see, it's that you can't see anything at all. Somewhere beneath Fenrir's lair in Valhalla, the game drops you into a hollow so thick with fog that your own torch becomes a suggestion rather than a light source. That sounds like a small design choice. It isn't. Every location before this one at least gave you the shape of the danger. Bones told you a story. Stone walls told you exactly how trapped you were. Here the fog takes that away and gives you nothing back. The obvious explanation is atmosphere. Norse mythology loves a good murky underworld, and Valhalla leans into that folklore hard, all mist and shadow and dread borrowed straight from the sagas. Fair enough. but atmosphere alone doesn't explain why this specific hollow sticks with people the way it does. This is supposedly Fenrir's territory, a beast chained by the gods themselves because he was too dangerous to leave loose, and you are wandering directly underneath that legend with maybe 6 feet of visibility. Nothing in the game confirms Fenrir himself is prowling that fog waiting for you, but follow the pattern. You're placed in his domain, blind, in a space built entirely around confinement. And the dread isn't a jump scare, it's a slow accumulating certainty that something with teeth already knows exactly where you are while you know nothing. That's worse than a monster you can see. A monster you can see has edges. A monster you can only feel the possibility of has none. It tracks with everything Valhalla does well and skips over what it doesn't need. There's no gore dump here, no pile of corpses to gawk at, just fog, stone, and the low-grade panic of a predator's den you can't map. Cut that hollow open and you find surprisingly little decoration, which somehow makes it scarier. Nobody built you a haunted house. They just took away your eyes and left you in the basement of a wolf god. Think about what that actually does to a person standing in it, hero or otherwise. It's one thing to fear a locked room. It's another to fear a locked room that might already have a tenant. Every place so far had one thing in common. You could eventually leave, walk out the door, sail away, climb back into the light. But there is one room in this entire series you can never truly step out of, because it isn't built out of stone, fog, or memory of the dead. It's built out of yours. The Animus rooms. No bars, no blood, no monsters, just a white room, a chair, and a man who can't leave either one. That's the room Desmond Miles wakes up in. Not a dungeon, not a tomb, a corporate holding cell dressed up as a medical suite, clean enough to pass for a spa if you didn't know what it actually did. Abstergo doesn't need chains. It has a machine that opens your skull from the inside. Every location before this one gave you an out, even if it was a bad one. The catacombs were suffocating, but you could still run for the surface. The mines swallowed the light, but the tunnel eventually ended. Even losing your sight in total blindness still left you a body to move and a way forward to grope toward. Every single one of those horrors happened to Desmond from the outside in. The Animus reverses that. It reaches inside him and mines the one thing he can never physically run from, his own bloodline's memory. That's what makes the sterile office aesthetic so wrong. White walls, fluorescent lighting, a logo on the wall like it's a dental clinic. Then you strap in and get dropped into someone else's death from 600 years ago, dragged back out, and told to do it again tomorrow. The contrast is the horror. A clinical room implies consent and safety. Desmond has neither. Subject 16 is the proof of what that room actually does to a person. He spent years in that same chair before Desmond ever sat in it, and he came out scattered across the walls in code, puzzles, and warnings scrawled into save files like a man leaving breadcrumbs out of his own collapsing mind. He didn't escape the room just moved on to its next occupant. That's the real answer to what's been haunting this whole list. The pyramid, the fog, the vaults, the drowned village, they're all terrifying, because you could theoretically walk away from them. Abstergo proves you can't. The scariest cage the series ever built doesn't have a door, because your memory doesn't have an exit. It didn't just lock Desmond inside a building, it locked him inside himself, and called the room ordinary so nobody would notice the door was gone. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.